The storm hit without warning. Nathan Cross was 6 years old when he learned what it meant to be brave. The deck of the SS Northern Star pitched beneath his feet, sending him stumbling toward the railing. Salt spray stung his eyes. Thunder cracked overhead like artillery fire. The ocean rose in mountains of black water, each wave tall enough to swallow the ship whole. His father stood at the helm, Captain James Cross, 40 years old, hands steady on the wheel. The wind tore at his coat. Rain hammered the windshield. But his grip never wavered. His eyes never left the horizon. Nathan clung to a support beam, trying not to cry, trying to be brave like his father. "Come here, son," James's voice cut through the storm. Nathan forced his legs to move. He crossed the pitching deck and stood beside his father at the wheel. "Look," James pointed through the rain. "You see that between the waves?" Nathan squinted. For just a moment, the clouds parted. A sliver of clear sky. A single star. "A captain never abandons his ship," James said. His hands never left the wheel. "Not in calm seas, not in storms. When everyone else runs, the captain stays. You understand?" Nathan nodded, though he didn't. "Not really, not then." "One day you'll understand," James said. "One day you'll have your own ship to protect, your own reason to stand firm when the world wants you to run." The wave hit then, 30 feet of ocean crashing over the bow. The ship groaned, metal screamed. Nathan lost his footing and would have fallen, but his father's hand shot out and caught him, held him steady. When the water cleared, they were still standing, still afloat. The storm raged on, but the ship held. And his father never let go of the wheel. The memory dissolved like morning fog. Nathan blinked. The storm was gone. The ship was gone. His father was gone. 47 years later. Portland, Oregon, Wednesday morning. Gray light filtering through cheap blinds. Nathan Cross sat at his kitchen table, 53 years old now, holding a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. The apartment around him was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic 3 floors below. He'd lived here 8 years. Small space, secondhand furniture, nothing that meant anything. The letter sat on the table in front of him. White envelope, official looking. Return address from a law firm in Montana he'd never heard of. Brennan and Associates, Riverside Falls. Population 1,847, according to the internet. He'd opened it last night, read it twice, then sat staring at the wall until the sun came up. Captain James Cross, 78 years old, had died in his sleep on January 15th. 2 weeks ago. Nathan hadn't known. They hadn't spoken in 12 years. Not since the custody hearing. Not since the day Nathan lost Lily and his father stood silent at the back of the courtroom, then walked out without a word. The lawyer's letter was brief, professional, clinical. James had left Nathan something. Not money. The old man never had much of that. But property. 15 acres of land in Riverside Falls, Montana, and whatever structure existed on that land. The lawyer was vague about the structure. Just said Nathan needed to come in person to sign papers and take possession. Nathan's phone sat beside the letter. He'd already called his clients, told them he needed 2 weeks, maybe more. Most understood. He was a handyman, a fixer. When pipes burst or roofs leaked or electrical panels sparked, people called Nathan Cross. He showed up, did the work, moved on. It was simple, honest, enough to pay rent and put gas in the truck. But it wasn't a life. Not really. The photograph lay face down beside the coffee cup. Nathan picked it up, turned it over. Lily, at 4 years old, sitting on his shoulders at the park, laughing at something off camera. Claire had taken this photo, one of the last good days before everything fell apart. Lily would be 16 now, almost 17. Nathan hadn't seen her since she was 6. 10 years of supervised visits that lasted 3 months before Victoria Ashford, his mother-in-law, filed a motion claiming Nathan was disruptive, confusing the child. The visits stopped. The legal bills piled up. Nathan's lawyer said they could appeal, but it would take money Nathan didn't have. The Ashfords had bottomless resources. They could drag it out for years. So Nathan stopped fighting. Not because he didn't love Lily, but because watching her cry every time he had to leave was destroying them both. Because he was exhausted. Because he didn't know how to fight people with that much power. He moved to Portland, took whatever work came, Built something that looked like a life from the outside but felt hollow on the inside. 10 years. Nathan set the photo down and picked up the letter again. One sentence near the end caught his attention, though the lawyer probably hadn't meant it to. Everything you need to bring Lily home is there, Simon. Everything you need. What did that mean? What could possibly be on 15 acres in rural Montana that would help him get his daughter back? James had been a ship captain, a merchant marine, 40 years at sea. What would he have left on a piece of land 1,200 miles from the ocean? Nathan stood, walked to the bedroom, pulled his duffel bag from the closet, and started packing. Not much. Jeans, work shirts, toiletries. He zipped the bag and carried it to the kitchen. The red toolbox sat on the counter where it always sat. Nathan ran his hand over the dented metal. His father had given him this toolbox when Nathan was 15, handed it over without ceremony in the driveway of their small house by the docks. "You'll need this," James had said. That was it. No explanation, no life lessons. Just the toolbox and the assumption that Nathan would figure out the rest. Nathan had carried it through every job, every apartment, every version of his life since. Inside were the tools his father had used and the ones Nathan had added over the years. Everything he needed to fix what was broken. Everything except what was broken in his own life. He wrapped the photograph of Lily in a clean shirt and tucked it into the duffel bag. Then he picked up the toolbox, grabbed his keys, and walked out. The drive from Portland to Riverside Falls took 14 hours. Nathan left at 6 in the morning and drove straight through, stopping only for guam and bad coffee. He took Interstate 84 east through the Columbia River Gorge, then north into Washington, before cutting across Idaho and into Montana. The landscape changed gradually. Urban sprawl gave way to suburbs. Suburbs faded into farmland. Farmland rose into foothills, then mountains. By the time Nathan crossed into Montana, the world had simplified. Sky, earth, road, the essentials. He drove with the radio on classic country stations, drifting in and out of range. Songs his father used to listen to: Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard. The music filled the silence but didn't chase away the memories. Nathan was 8 years old the first time his father took him aboard the Northern Star. Summer of 1980, the ship was docked in Seattle for repairs. James had 3 days before the next voyage. They walked up the gangway together, Nathan's hand in his father's rough palm. The ship was enormous. 200 feet of steel and rivets and machinery. It smelled like diesel fuel and salt water, and something else Nathan couldn't name then. Later, he'd recognize it as the smell of distance, of places beyond the horizon. James showed him everything: the bridge, the engine room, the crew quarters, the cargo holds big enough to swallow a house. But the captain's quarters were what Nathan remembered most. A small room with a narrow bed, a desk, a porthole looking out at the water. Simple, functional, everything in its place. "One day, this will be yours," James had said. He put his hand on Nathan's shoulder. "You'll be a captain, lead men, cross oceans, see the world." Nathan had believed him. Of course he had. He was 80 years old and his father was the most powerful man he knew, a man who commanded ships and conquered storms. The dream lasted 4 years. Nathan was 12 when his mother died. Cancer, 3 months from diagnosis to funeral. James was at sea when it started. He came home once during the treatment, stayed a week, then left again. He made it back in time for the service, stood silent at the grave, never cried, never showed anything. Nathan cried, at the funeral, at night in his room, in the shower where no one could hear. But his father's face remained stone. 3 days after the funeral, James returned to sea. Nathan lived with neighbors for the next 6 years. Good people who fed him and made sure he got to school. But they weren't family. His father would return every few months, stay for a week or two, then disappear again. They'd sit at the table and eat dinner in silence. James would ask about school. Nathan would give short answers. Neither knew how to bridge the distance between them. When Nathan turned 16, James gave him the red toolbox. "A man fixes what's broken in his life," James had said. "You'll need these, deity." That was the extent of the life lesson. No elaboration, no explanation. Just tools and an expectation. Nathan learned to use them. Got good at fixing things. Pipes, wiring, engines, anything mechanical made sense. Follow the system, find the problem, replace the broken part. Simple. He never became a captain. never went to sea. The dream his father had planted died with his mother buried in the same hole in the ground. Instead, Nathan became a handyman, a fixer of other people's problems. It wasn't what James had imagined, but it was honest work. It paid the bills. The truck's engine droned on. Miles blurred past. Nathan's eyes grew heavy. He pulled off at a rest stop in Idaho, parked in the back corner, and dozed for 20 minutes with the seat reclined. When he woke, the sun was setting. He bought coffee from a vending machine that tasted like motor oil and got back on the road. The memory came without warning. Nathan tried to push it away, but it surfaced anyway, sharp and clear. The custody hearing, November 21st, 2013. Suffolk County Courthouse, Boston. Nathan in a cheap suit he'd bought at Goodwill. Victoria and Harold Ashford in clothes that cost more than Nathan made in 6 months. The judge was William Barrett. Thin lips, cold eyes. A man who'd already made up his mind before the hearing started. Victoria's lawyer painted Nathan as negligent, unstable, unable to provide. They brought witnesses who said they'd seen Nathan yelling at Claire, that he'd been absent, that Claire had managed everything alone while Nathan worked whatever odd jobs he could find. One of those witnesses was Grace Mitchell, a neighbor from their old block. She testified that she'd seen Nathan and Claire fighting, heard raised voices, saw Nathan's temper. Nathan barely remembered the incident, some argument about bills, stress making both of them sharp. But in the courtroom it sounded like abuse. Nathan's lawyer tried to defend him, talked about Nathan's work ethic, his love for Lily, his attempts to be a good father under difficult circumstances. But the words fell flat against Victoria's polished presentation. Judge Barrett listened to it all with the expression of a man who'd heard enough before anyone started talking. In the interest of the child's welfare, Barrett said, I'm granting custody to the maternal grandparents Richard and Victoria Ashford. Visitation for the father will be supervised pending further review. The gavel came down. Lily screamed. A bailiff had to hold Nathan back as they led his daughter out of the courtroom. James Cross had been there, sitting in the back row, silent. Nathan saw him as the room cleared. Their eyes met for just a moment. Nathan expected something, anything, anger, support, sympathy. But James just stood, turned, walked out. Nathan didn't see him again for 8 months. By then, the supervised visits had been canceled, and Nathan had moved to Portland, as far from Boston as he could get without leaving the country. The last time they spoke was a phone call, January 8th, 2014. Why didn't you say something? Nathan had shouted into the phone. Why didn't you testify? Tell them about Victoria's threats, about how she'd been harassing Claire. It wouldn't have helped, James said. His voice was calm, measured, infuriating. They would have called me biased, an angry father defending his son. So you did nothing, silence on the line. You always do nothing, Nathan said. The words came hot and bitter. Like when Mom died, you just left. You're good at leaving and aren't you? More silence. I don't need you, Nathan said. Lily doesn't need you. Don't call again. Nathan, James's voice cracked just slightly. Just enough to be human. I love you, son. Nathan hung up. That was 12 years ago. James never called again, never wrote, never tried to make contact. And Nathan told himself he didn't care. Told himself he was better off without a father who only knew how to disappear. Now James was dead, and Nathan was driving through the dark toward a piece of property he'd never heard of, carrying a toolbox and a decade of regret. The sign appeared in his headlights just after midnight. Riverside Falls, Montana. Population 1847. Welcome. The town was exactly what Nathan expected. One main street, a handful of shops, a diner with a flickering neon sign, a post office, a bar. Everything closed at this hour except the bar, where warm lights spilled from the windows, and 3 pickup trucks sat in the parking lot. Nathan drove slowly through town, found a motel at the far end of the main drag. The Riverside Inn, 8 rooms, vacancy light glowing. He pulled in, parked, and sat for a moment looking at the building. This was it, the place his father had spent the last 15 years. Coming here, buying land, building or hiding something. Why here? Why this town in the middle of nowhere? Nathan grabbed his duffel bag and walked to the office. An older man sat behind the desk watching a small television. He looked up when Nathan entered. Help you, need a room. $50 a night. Checkouts at 11. Nathan paid cash for 3 nights. The man handed him a key attached to a wooden tag with a tarnished number 4. "You here for business or passing through?" the man asked. "Business." "What kind?" Nathan hesitated. "Inheritance from Biplanung." The man's expression changed. Not much, just a flicker of recognition. "You James Cross's boy?" The question hit Nathan harder than it should have. No one had called him that in 30 years. "I am." The man nodded slowly. "Thought so. You got the look of him. Your father was a good man, came through town regular, quiet, kept to himself, but decent." Nathan didn't know what to say to that. "Sorry for your loss," the man added. Nathan took the key and went to his room. Small, clean, bed, television, bathroom. He dropped the duffel bag on the bed and sat down. Exhaustion pulled at him. 14 hours of driving, the weight of memory, the uncertainty of what tomorrow would bring. He lay back without undressing, stared at the ceiling. Sleep seemed impossible, but it came anyway, dragging him under like a riptide. The Brennan and Associates law office opened at 8 in the morning. Nathan was there at 8:15. The building was old brick, 2 stories sandwiched between a hardware store and an insurance office. A bell chimed when Nathan pushed the door open. A woman in her 50s sat at the front desk. She looked up and smiled. "You must be Nathan Cross. Mr. Brennan's expecting you." She led him down a narrow hallway to an office at the back. Robert Brennan stood when Nathan entered. 70 years old, maybe older. Gray hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He extended his hand. "Mr. Cross, thank you for coming." They shook. Brennan gestured to a chair and sat behind his desk. "I'm very sorry about your father," Brennan said. "He was a remarkable man." Nathan nodded but said nothing. Brennan opened a folder. "I'll keep this simple. Your father purchased 15.3 acres of land outside Riverside Falls in the fall of 2001. He paid cash. 2 years later, he had something moved onto the property. The land and everything on it now belongs to you. The deed is clear. No liens, no debts, just some property taxes which are current through the end of the year." "What's on the property?" Nathan asked. Brennan smiled. It was the smile of a man who'd been waiting for that question. "I think you need to see it for yourself. Words won't do it justice." He pulled a key ring from his desk drawer. 2 keys, one brass, one silver. He slid them across the desk along with a hand-drawn map. "The property's about 5 miles northwest of town. The road's rough but passable. Your father asked me to give you this when you arrived." Brennan handed Nathan a sealed envelope. Nathan took it, felt the weight. Something inside besides paper. "Is there anything else I need to know?" Nathan asked. Brennan hesitated. "Your father came to Riverside Falls 3 or 4 times a year. Always stayed a week, sometimes longer. He kept to himself mostly, but people here respected him. He had a way about him. Steady, reliable. The kind of man you could count on." The description stung. Nathan had never thought of his father that way. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe Nathan had only ever seen what was missing instead of what was there. Nathan stood, shook Brennan's hand again. "Thank you." "One more thing," Brennan said. "Your father left instructions. If anything happened to him, I was to tell you something." "What?" "He said, don't judge what you find, judge what I did with it." Nathan turned that over in his mind, didn't understand it. But he nodded and left. The map led Nathan out of town and onto a 2-lane county road that curved through farmland and stands of pine. After 3 miles, he turned onto a dirt track barely wide enough for the truck. Grass grew high in the center. Branches scraped the sides. The land rose gradually. Nathan could see mountains in the distance, still capped with snow. Despite the late winter thaw, the air was cold and clean and smelled like pine sap. The track ended at a clearing. Nathan stopped the truck and sat for a long moment, hands on the wheel staring through the windshield. His father's ship sat in the middle of 15 acres of Montana grassland. The SS Northern Star, 200 feet of rusted steel, tilted slightly to one side, listing as if caught in a frozen wave. The hull was streaked with orange and brown decay. Vegetation had grown up around it, weeds and wild grass creeping toward the waterline like the earth was trying to reclaim what didn't belong. Nathan got out of the truck slowly. His legs felt unsteady, The ship loomed ahead of him, impossible and real at the same time. A ghost made solid. A memory pulled from the ocean and planted here 1,200 miles from the nearest sea. He walked toward it. Up close, the scale was overwhelming. The hull rose 30 feet above him. Windows were cracked or missing. The deck was littered with debris. A makeshift gangway had been rigged up, weathered planks leading to a gap in the hull. Nathan climbed aboard. The deck creaked under his weight. He tested each step. The wood was solid despite its appearance. Someone had maintained this. Recently. His father. James had maintained this. Nathan found the door to the captain's quarters. It opened with a push. The interior was dark but dry. He waited for his eyes to adjust. The room looked exactly as he remembered from childhood. The narrow bed, the desk, the porthole looking out. But everything was cleaner now, organized with military precision. Books lined the shelves in alphabetical order. Charts rolled and stored in tubes. The desk clear except for one item. A white envelope with his name written in his father's blocky handwriting. Nathan picked it up. His hands shook slightly. He broke the seal and pulled out a single sheet of paper and a small brass key. The letter was brief. Nathan, everything you need is here. I'm sorry I couldn't do more when it mattered, but I never stopped trying. The truth is in the ship. Find it. Use it. Make things right. Dad. Nathan read it 3 times. The truth. What truth about what? He pocketed the brass key and set the letter on the desk. Then he sat down in his father's chair and looked around the cabin. This was where James had spent his time. Not just when the ship was at sea, but here, in Montana, coming back year after year to this landlocked vessel in the middle of nowhere. Why Nathan stood and began searching methodically. The desk drawers first. Top drawer held pens, pencils, a ruler, standard. The second held papers, receipts, insurance documents, nothing significant. The third drawer was locked. Nathan tried the brass key from the envelope. It didn't fit. He studied the lock. Old tumbler mechanism. Simple. He went back to the truck and retrieved the red toolbox. Inside, beneath the wrenches and screwdrivers, were the lock picks he'd learned to use as a teenager. A tension wrench and a rake pick. He worked the lock carefully, felt for the pins. After 2 minutes, he heard the click. The drawer slid open. Inside was a leather-bound book. A ship's log, the kind captains were required to keep. Nathan lifted it carefully. The leather was worn smooth, the pages thick and yellow. He opened it to the first page. The date made him pause. September 12th, 2013. That was 2 months before Claire died. 2 months before the custody hearing. Nathan's heart began to beat faster. He flipped through slowly. His father's handwriting filled every page. Dates, times. But these weren't maritime logs. These were observations, investigations, documentation. And they were all about Victoria Ashford. Nathan sat back down, began reading from the beginning. The entries were methodical, detailed, clinical. September 12, 2013, received a call from Victoria Ashford today. She asked about Nathan's work schedule, whether he's home with Lily regularly. I told her it was none of her business. She said it would become her business soon enough. Hung up on her. Nathan's throat tightened. His father had known. Even then, he'd known Victoria was planning something. September 19th, 2013. Victoria called again, more direct this time. Said she's been watching Nathan and Claire, taking notes. Said Claire is struggling and Nathan isn't equipped to handle the situation. I asked what situation. She wouldn't say, just kept talking about Lily's welfare. I told her to leave my son alone. The entries continued, each one documenting Victoria's escalating campaign. Her phone calls, her threats, her manipulation. October 3rd, 2013. Claire called me, first time in months. She sounded scared, said her mother has been showing up unannounced, bringing doctors, insisting Claire needs help. Claire says she feels fine most days, just tired. I asked if Nathan knows. She said she doesn't want to worry him. I told her to document everything, keep a record. Nathan stood abruptly, walked to the porthole, looked out at the empty land. Claire had called his father. She'd been scared, and Nathan never knew. He forced himself to sit back down. Keep reading. October 10th, 2013. Margaret Finch left a voicemail. I didn't call back. The message was clear enough. She's preparing something. I've started making my own documentation. Called a lawyer friend in Boston. Asked about grandparents' rights in custody cases. Didn't like what I heard. The entries grew darker. October 15th, 2013. Claire's gone. Nathan called, barely coherent. Brain hemorrhage. I'm heading back to port early. Should arrive in 3 days. God help us. Nathan's vision blurred. He blinked hard, kept reading. October 18th, 2013. Made it to the hospital. Too late. Claire's already been buried. The Ashfords arranged everything, didn't wait for Nathan to make decisions. Victoria looked at me during the service like she'd already won something. The next entry was dated 2 weeks later. November 2nd, 2013. The Ashfords filed for custody. I knew it was coming. Talked to Nathan, tried to convince him to fight harder. But he's destroyed. Can't blame him. I've hired a private investigator. Something isn't right about Claire's death. Nathan stopped reading, set the logbook down carefully. His hands were shaking. His father had known, had seen it coming, had tried to help, and Nathan had spent 12 years thinking James didn't care. He picked up the logbook again, forced himself to continue. The entries that followed detailed his father's investigation. The private investigator's findings, evidence of Victoria's past, her first husband's death, the inconsistencies in the police report, the pattern of control and manipulation. November 14th, 2013. I found something. Victoria's first husband died 23 years ago. Fall down the stairs, ruled accidental. But there were inconsistencies in the police report. Witnesses who weren't interviewed. Victoria inherited everything. Nathan's blood ran cold. November 20th, 2013. Attended the custody hearing. Sat in the back. Wanted to testify about Victoria's threats. But Nathan's lawyer said it would seem biased. Angry father defending his son. The Ashford lawyers were good, professional. They made Nathan look like a failure. Grace Mitchell testified against him. Said she saw him yelling at Claire. Grace looked terrified the whole time, like someone had a gun to her back. Grace Mitchell. Nathan remembered her, their old neighbor, the woman who'd destroyed his credibility on the stand. November 21st, 2013. They took Lily. Judge ruled for supervised visitation only. I watched Nathan fall apart. Wanted to say something. Anything. But what good are words now? I failed him, failed Claire, failed Lily. But I'm not done yet. The final entry on that page was dated December 1st. December 1st, 2013. I confirmed suspicions about Grace Mitchell. The Ashfords paid off her mortgage 2 weeks before the hearing. $30,000. Transferred directly from Harold Ashford's account to her bank. Grace testified because she had no choice. They bought her house to control her testimony. Nathan closed the logbook. Stood, walked to the center of the cabin. His father had known everything. Had documented it all. Had spent 12 years building a case. And Nathan had hung up on him. Told him never to call again. The weight of that crushed down like water pressure. Nathan sat on the edge of the narrow bed, put his head in his hands, and for the first time in 10 years he let himself cry. Not quiet tears. Deep, wrenching sobs that shook his whole body. For Claire, for Lily, for his father. For 12 years of misunderstanding and distance and wasted time. When he finally stopped, the cabin was silent except for the sound of wind moving through the gaps in the ship's hull. Nathan wiped his eyes, stood, walked back to the desk. The logbook had hundreds more pages. Years of documentation. His father's entire final decade spent building something. A weapon, evidence, justice delayed but not abandoned. Nathan opened the red toolbox, set it on the desk beside the logbook. His father's words echoed in his mind, the ones he'd said when he gave Nathan this toolbox at 16. A man fixes what's broken in his life. Nathan hadn't understood then, but he understood now. Some things couldn't be fixed with wrenches and screwdrivers. Some broken things required patience, time, evidence, strategy. His father had given him tools, not just metal ones, but something bigger. something that had taken 15 years to build. Nathan picked up the logbook again, began reading where he'd left off. Entry after entry, his father's quiet, methodical war against the people who'd destroyed Nathan's life. Outside, the sun climbed toward noon. The ship creaked and settled, and Nathan Cross, 53 years old, sat in his dead father's chair and learned that love sometimes looks like silence. That fighting doesn't always mean making noise. That a captain who seems to have abandoned his ship might actually be the only one still steering through the storm. The logbook had more to reveal. Nathan could feel it. But this was enough for now. Enough to know that his father hadn't walked away. Enough to know that the last 12 years of James Cross's life had been spent on a single mission, bringing Lily home. Nathan stood, walked to the porthole, looked out at the Montana landscape. Somewhere 3 states away, his daughter was living with murderers, with people who'd lied and bribed and possibly killed to keep control of her. And somewhere in this ship, his father had hidden the evidence to prove it all. Nathan turned back to the cabin, to the desk and the shelves and the walls. His father's note had been clear. The truth was in the ship. Everything Nathan needed was here. Time to start searching. He opened the red toolbox again, began pulling out tools he'd need: screwdrivers, pry bars, a flashlight. His father had built this puzzle. Now Nathan would solve it, one piece at a time. For Lily, for Claire, for the 12 years he'd lost believing his father had abandoned him when James Cross had actually been doing the one thing he knew how to do. Standing at the helm, hands on the wheel, refusing to abandon ship even when the storm threatened to swallow everything whole. Nathan picked up the logbook one more time. Read the last entry on the first page. A captain never abandons his ship. I taught Nathan that when he was 6 years old. I hope when he reads this, he'll understand I never abandoned him either. I was just fighting a different kind of storm. The kind you can't see until you're already in it. The kind that takes everything if you're not willing to stand firm. I stood firm, son, for you, for Lily, for all of us. Now it's your turn to take the wheel. Nathan closed the logbook, set it down gently, and then he got to work. The Seattle skyline rose through the morning fog like steel teeth biting at low clouds. Nathan had driven through the night again, 6 hours from Riverside Falls, fueled by truck stop coffee and the weight of what he'd discovered in his father's logbook. The office building where Diana Wells worked was glass and chrome, 15 stories of corporate precision in the heart of downtown. Nathan felt out of place in the lobby. His work boots scuffed on marble floors. His jacket was worn at the elbows. But he'd learned long ago that wealth was just another kind of armor, and armor could be pierced if you knew where to aim. The elevator climbed to the 12th floor. The receptionist was expecting him. Young woman, professional smile gesturing toward a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the sound. Diana Wells entered 3 minutes later. 54 years old, silver hair cut short and precise. Eyes that missed nothing. She carried a yellow legal pad and a pen that probably cost more than Nathan's truck payment. They shook hands. Her grip was firm. Mr. Cross, thank you for making the drive. Thank you for seeing me on short notice. She sat across from him, opened the legal pad. Your email was brief but compelling. You said you have evidence of judicial corruption and possible homicide related to a custody case from 2013. Nathan reached into his bag and pulled out the copies he'd made. The logbook was too valuable to risk, so he'd spent yesterday at a library in Riverside Falls scanning every page. He slid the thick folder across the table. Diana opened it, began reading. Her expression never changed, but Nathan saw her posture shift, shoulders straightening, focus sharpening. This was a predator recognizing prey. She read for 30 minutes without speaking. Nathan waited, watched the city beyond the windows, ferries crossing the sound, seagulls wheeling in the gray air, a world that kept moving while his had been frozen for a decade. Finally, Diana looked up. This is extraordinary. Your father documented 12 years of investigation, financial records showing payments from Richard Ashford to witnesses, evidence of Judge William Barrett's gambling debts and subsequent bankruptcy withdrawal, recorded phone conversations. This is the work of someone who understood exactly what he was building. Can we use it? Nathan asked. Use it, mister. This doesn't just give us grounds to appeal the custody decision. This is evidence of organized criminal activity, bribery, corruption, conspiracy, and potentially murder. She flipped to a marked page. Your father notes here that Claire called him 3 days before she died, said she believed Victoria was poisoning her, that she was planning to go to the police after Lily's birthday. I know. But to prove murder, we need more than suspicions. We need medical evidence, toxicology reports. Your father mentions he transferred medical records to a bank safe deposit box. Do you have them? Not yet. The log mentions a key hidden somewhere on the ship, where I used to hide things as a child. Nathan leaned forward. But before I go back, I need to know this is worth it, that we actually have a chance. Diana set down her pen, met his eyes directly. Mr. Cross, I'm going to be honest with you. This case will be ugly. Victoria Ashford has money connections and a documented willingness to destroy anyone who threatens her. She will come after you with everything she has. She'll dig up every mistake you've ever made, every bad day, every moment of weakness. She'll paint you as unstable, dangerous, obsessed. Her lawyers will try to bury us in motions and delays. I don't care. Let me finish. Beyond the legal battle, there's a personal cost. Lily is 16 now. She spent 10 years with Victoria as her primary guardian. She's been told you abandoned her, that you didn't want her. Even if we win custody, there's no guarantee she'll accept you back into her life. You need to prepare for that possibility. Nathan had thought about this every day for 10 years. I know. Then why are you doing this? Why now? The question hung in the air between them. Nathan thought about the easy answer, that his father's death had given him the tools he needed, that justice demanded action, that Lily deserved the truth. But the real answer was harder. Because I made a promise, Nathan said. When Lily was born, Claire made me promise that no matter what happened, I'd protect our daughter. I failed. I let them take her because I was too broken to fight. I let 10 years pass because I was too afraid to fail again. But my father spent 15 years of his life building a case he knew he'd never see finished. He did that for me. For Lily. The least I can do is be brave enough to use it. Diana studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, I'll take your case. But first we need those medical records. Find them. Bring them to me. If they show what your father believed they show, we'll have everything we need. Nathan stood, shook her hand again. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get harder before it gets better. The drive back to Montana took 7 hours. Nathan pushed the old Ford harder than he should have, eating miles through Idaho's panhandle as the sun climbed and fell. His mind churned through possibilities. Where would he have hidden things as a child? The ship had been his playground during those brief visits when his father was in port. He'd explored every corner, found every secret space. The galley, the anchor chain locker, the cargo holds, the navigation room with its big brass wheel. The wheel. Nathan's hands tightened on the steering wheel of his truck. When he was 10, he'd discovered that the spokes of the ship's wheel were hollow, perfect for hiding small treasures. Notes, coins, once a watch he'd found on the dock that probably belonged to one of the crew. If his father wanted to hide something where Nathan would think to look, that's where it would be. He reached Riverside Falls after dark, drove straight past the motel, past the turnoff to town onto the dirt track leading to the property. The ship rose against the stars like a beached whale. Nathan parked and grabbed his flashlight. The navigation room was below deck forward of the captain's quarters. Nathan made his way carefully through the dark corridors, testing each step. The beam of his flashlight cut through shadows, illuminating rust and decay and ghosts. The navigation room was smaller than he remembered, but the wheel was still there, mounted on its pedestal in the center. Nathan approached it slowly, ran his hand over the brass. It was cold and tarnished, but solid. He shone the light into one of the hollow spokes, saw something inside, reached in carefully. His fingers closed on paper. An envelope, wrapped in plastic to protect it from moisture. Nathan pulled it out, unwrapped the plastic. Inside were photographs, Polaroids, dated and labeled in his father's handwriting. The first showed Victoria and Harold Ashford sitting at a restaurant table with a man in an expensive suit. Nathan recognized him immediately. Judge William Barrett. The date on the photo was 4 months before the custody hearing. The second showed the same three people at what looked like a private club, drinks in hand, laughing, 2 months before the hearing. The third showed just Victoria and the judge, close together, his hand on her arm, familiar, intimate, 1 month before the hearing. Nathan went through them all, 12 photographs documenting a relationship that should not have existed. A judge who would rule on a case involving someone he met with regularly, someone who clearly had influence over him. At the bottom of the envelope was a note in his father's handwriting. Private investigator took these over 6 months. Barrett and Victoria have been connected for years. He owes her money. Borrowed it to cover gambling debts. She owns him. That's why you lost Lily. The fix was in from the start. Nathan sat back against the bulkhead. The photograph spread around him. This was it. This was the smoking gun, proof that Judge Barrett was compromised, that the custody hearing had been rigged. But his father's note mentioned medical records too. Those were still missing. Nathan stood, kept searching. The galley was next. According to the logbook his father had written that he'd hidden documents under the floorboards near the stove. The galley was in worse shape than the navigation room. Water damage had warped some of the wood. But Nathan found the section his father had described. He used a pry bar from the red toolbox and worked carefully, not wanting to damage anything. The board came up easier than expected. Underneath, wrapped in oilcloth, was a small wooden box. Nathan's hands trembled as he lifted it out, set it on the counter, unwrapped the cloth. Inside were letters, old, folded carefully, the paper yellowed. He opened the first one and saw Claire's handwriting. His breath caught. Dear James, I know we haven't always been close, but I need to talk to someone, and Nathan can't know yet. He has enough to worry about. Nathan had to stop, blink hard, force himself to keep reading. My parents have been visiting more often, Mom especially. She brings doctors, insists I need examinations, says I'm not well. But James, I feel fine most days, just tired. Weldon works so hard and I don't want him to think I'm complaining. Mom says I'm being stubborn, that I don't recognize how sick I am. But I think she's the one who's sick, sick with control. She wants Lily away from us. I can see it in how she talks, how she looks at me, like I'm failing at being her daughter, and Lily deserves better. I don't know what to do. I'm documenting everything like you said, writing down dates times what she says. Just in case something happens and Nathan needs proof. I love him so much, James. I wish you two were closer. He needs his father, especially now. Love, Claire. Nathan set the letter down, pressed his palms against his eyes. Claire had been afraid, had felt her mother closing in, and she tried to protect him by keeping quiet. There were more letters, each one revealing more. Claire writing about feeling watched, about finding Victoria in their house when they weren't home, about conversations where her mother would hint at taking Lily somewhere safe. Claire describing symptoms, nausea, headaches, confusion that came and went without explanation. The last letter was dated 3 days before Claire died. James, I'm scared. I think Mom has been putting something in my food. I know it sounds crazy, but the symptoms only happen after I eat at their house. I'm going to the police after Lily's birthday. I have to wait until then. If I do it now, Mom will find a way to take Lily during the investigation. Please don't tell Nathan yet. I need to handle this carefully. If anything happens to me, make sure he knows I loved him. And make sure Lily knows too. Nathan folded the letter carefully, his vision blurred. Claire had known. She'd figured it out. And she died 2 days before she planned to go to the police. At the bottom of the box was one more item, a small velvet pouch. Nathan opened it and a ring fell into his palm. Sarah's wedding ring, simple gold band, worn smooth from years of wear. He closed his fist around it and sat there on the galley floor, surrounded by evidence of a crime no one had investigated, holding the ring of a woman who died trying to protect their daughter. The night passed slowly. Nathan read every letter twice, photographed everything with his phone, then carefully repacked the box and hid it back under the floorboards. He couldn't risk anyone finding this. At dawn, he drove into town, found Mitchell's Diner, the same place his father had mentioned in the logbook. Where Grace Mitchell worked, the diner was exactly what Nathan expected. Red vinyl booths, counter with chrome stools, smell of coffee and bacon. An older woman stood behind the counter, pouring coffee for a man in overalls. She looked up when Nathan entered. Recognition flickered across her face. Then something more complicated. Fear, maybe, or shame. "Sit anywhere," she said. Nathan took a booth by the window. Grace brought him coffee without asking. Up close, she was probably in her early 60s. Gray-streaked hair pulled back. Tired eyes that had seen too many years. "You're Frank Parr's son," she said. Not a question. Nathan nodded. "I am." "Thought so. You look like him. I'm Grace Mitchell. I own this place." The name hit Nathan like cold water. Grace Mitchell, the woman who testified against him in court, who said she'd seen him yelling at Claire, made him sound dangerous. Grace saw the recognition on his face and winced. Yeah, that Grace Mitchell. Nathan didn't know what to say. "I'll give you a minute with the menu," Grace said and walked away. Nathan stared at the menu without seeing it. Around him, the diner buzzed with quiet morning conversation. Normal people living normal lives while his stayed frozen in the past. Grace returned a few minutes later. "Know what you want. Eggs and toast, coffee's fine." She wrote it down, hesitated, then said quietly, "Your father was a good man. He came in here a lot the last few years, always sat in that booth right there." She nodded toward the corner. "We talk sometimes. He told me about you." Nathan looked up at her. "What did he tell you?" "That you'd been dealt a bad hand, that he was trying to make it right." Grace glanced around the diner, checking if anyone was listening. Then she lowered her voice. "He told me about the custody case, about what I did. So you know I lied. I know you testified to something that wasn't the whole truth." "Yes. I'm not proud of it, but I need you to understand. I had 2 kids at home. The bank was about to foreclose. Victoria Ashford showed up at my house 6 weeks before the hearing. She knew exactly how much I owed, knew when the payments were due. Then she made me an offer. Testify about what I'd seen. Make it clear you had a temper, and she'd pay off my mortgage. $30,000. And you agreed." Grace's face tightened. "I had 2 kids. I was going to lose my house. Yes, I agreed." She looked at him directly. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. But that's the truth. Victoria Ashford bought my testimony, and I let her because I was desperate." Nathan felt anger rising in his chest, but under it was something else. Understanding, maybe. Grace had been trapped same as him. Different kind of trap, but Victoria had known exactly which buttons to push. "Your father figured it out," Grace continued. "He came into the diner about a year after the hearing. Sat down, ordered coffee, and said he knew what I'd done. I nearly had a heart attack. But he wasn't there to threaten me. He said he was building a P and collecting evidence, and he wanted me to know that when the time came, I'd need to tell the truth. The real truth." "What did you say?" "I said yes. I told him everything. The meeting with Victoria, the money, all of it. He recorded the conversation. I signed an affidavit. It's somewhere in that ship of his, I'm guessing." Nathan nodded slowly. "It is. I found the financial records. The payment from Harold Ashford's account to your bank." Grace pulled out a chair and sat across from him. "After your father asked me to document everything, I started paying attention. The Ashfords own property here, a vacation house about 15 miles outside town. They visit twice a year, always in summer and winter. I started keeping track of who they meet with, what they talk about in the diner when they think nobody's listening." She went to the register and came back with a folder, handed it to Nathan. Inside were notes, dates, photos. Grace had done exactly what James had asked. She'd become an investigator watching the people who destroyed Nathan's life. "There's something else you should know," Grace said quietly. 3 years ago, a man came to town. Journalist, working on some story about influential families in the region. He interviewed people, looked at public records. Then one day he left town suddenly. His car was found abandoned 2 states over. He never finished his story, never came back. You think Victoria? I don't know, but I know people stopped asking questions after that." Nathan looked at the folder in his hands, felt the weight of what Grace was saying. He'd been thinking of this as a legal battle, a fight in courtrooms with lawyers and evidence. But if Victoria was willing to make people disappear, He was walking into something more dangerous than he'd realized. "Why are you telling me this?" Nathan asked. "Why help now?" Grace smiled sadly. "Your father convinced me I'd be safer staying put, acting normal. If I ran, it would look suspicious. So I stayed, kept the diner open, waited. For what? For you. Your father said when you finally came, it would mean you were ready to fight, that you'd have what you needed to take them down. So tell me, are you ready?" Nathan thought about Claire's letters, the photographs of Judge Barrett, the evidence scattered through the ship. He thought about Lily, 16 years old now, living with her mother's killer. "I'm ready, but I need more than what I have. My father said everything was in the ship. I found a lot, but I'm missing something. Something big." Grace nodded. "Your father mentioned photographs and medical records. He said they were the smoking gun. He hid them somewhere on the ship, somewhere only you would think to look. I found the photographs, Judge Barrett and Victoria together. But the medical records, I haven't found those yet. He said you'd understand when you saw them, that they'd make everything clear." Nathan stood. "I need to keep searching." Grace walked him to the door. Before he left, she put a hand on his arm. "Be careful. If Victoria figures out what you're doing, she won't hesitate. She's protected her control over Lily for 10 years. She won't give it up easily." "I know. And Nathan, I really am sorry for what I did, for the part I played in taking your daughter away." Nathan looked at her, this woman who'd been trapped by circumstances, who'd made a terrible choice and lived with it ever since. He couldn't forgive her. Not yet, but he understood. "Help me now," he said. "Help me get Lily back. That's how you make it right." Grace nodded. "Whatever you need." Nathan drove back to the property as the sun climbed overhead. The ship waited, massive, impatient. He climbed aboard and went straight to the captain's quarters, pulled out the logbook and started reading again from where he'd left off. His father had been methodical. Each entry detailed another piece of the puzzle: witness statements, financial transactions, phone recordings. James had spent 15 years building an airtight case, but one entry caught Nathan's attention. March 15th, 2014, transferred Claire's medical records to safe deposit box. Box 247, First National Bank, Millerton, Montana. The key is where Nathan hides his secrets. Where Nathan hides his secrets. The navigation wheel had been one place, but his father was talking about something from childhood. Somewhere else Nathan had hidden things. The anchor chain locker. Nathan remembered now. During hide-and-seek with his father on the ship, the anchor chain locker had been his favorite spot. Dark, cramped, perfect for hiding. James would always pretend he couldn't find Nathan there, even though he obviously knew. Nathan made his way below deck to the forward hold, found the access panel to the anchor chain locker. It took 20 minutes of work with the pry bar to get it open. The space beyond was exactly as he remembered: small, dark, musty. He squeezed inside and shone his flashlight around. The chain brackets were still mounted on the walls, but the chains themselves were long gone. He ran his hands along the walls, feeling for anything unusual. There, a panel painted over but slightly raised. He worked it free with a screwdriver from the toolbox. Behind it was a small metal box. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, was a key and a note. Box 247. This is the proof that seals it. Claire's medical records from the weeks before her death. Tests she ordered privately without Victoria knowing. The toxicology results came back after Claire died. Arsenic levels that should have been investigated immediately. I had to pay significant money to get these records before they disappeared. Use them. Make sure Claire's death means something. Nathan clutched his key, his hands shaking. His father had obtained the actual medical records. The proof of poisoning. This wasn't circumstantial anymore. This was hard science. He checked the note for the bank's location, Millerton, Montana, about 2 hours southeast. Nathan could get there before the bank closed. He climbed out of the locker, locked up the ship, got in his truck, and started driving. Called Diana Wells from the road. "I found them," he said when she answered. "The medical records. My father left them in a safe deposit box. I'm on my way to get them now." "Nathan, this is exactly what we need. Get those records and bring them to me. If they show what your father believed, we'll have everything required to move forward." "How long will it take to file?" Once I have the medical records, I can have motions filed within 48 hours. The state attorney general will want to review everything for criminal charges. This is bigger than family court now. This is homicide. Nathan ended the call and drove faster. The landscape blurred past. Mountains, forests, small towns that looked identical. His mind churned through possibilities and scenarios. What would happen when Victoria found out? Would she run? Would she fight? Would Lily believe him? That was the question that haunted him most. Lily had spent 10 years with Victoria, 10 years being told that Nathan abandoned her, that he didn't want her. Even if Nathan proved Victoria was a murderer, would Lily see him as a father or as a stranger trying to destroy the only family she knew? Millerton was smaller than Riverside Falls. One main street, a bank, a general store, a post office. Nathan parked in front of First National Bank and went inside. The clerk was helpful and efficient. Checked Nathan's ID, verified his name against the safe deposit box records. Led him to the vault. Box 247 was small. The clerk used the bank's key. Nathan used the key from the ship. The box opened. Inside was a thick manila envelope. Nathan carried it to a private room, his heart hammering. He opened it carefully. Medical records, dozens of pages, lab tests ordered by Claire's doctor in the weeks before her death. Blood work, urinalysis, comprehensive metabolic panels. Notes from multiple appointments where Claire described her symptoms: fatigue, nausea, confusion, muscle weakness. And at the bottom, a toxicology report dated 3 days after Claire's death. Elevated arsenic levels detected, 2.4 milligrams per liter. Normal range 0.02 milligrams per liter. Levels consistent with chronic exposure. Recommend immediate investigation for poisoning. Signed, Dr. Patricia Wong, Chief Toxicologist. The report was stamped official, with a note clipped to it. This report was sent to the medical examiner's office as required. However, ME ruled death as natural causes hemorrhage before toxicology results were reviewed. When I called to follow up, I was told the case was closed and further investigation was not warranted. I maintained the original results in case they were ever needed. Nathan read it 3 times. Claire had been poisoned. The lab caught it. The report went to the medical examiner, and then someone made it disappear. Someone paid off the medical examiner, or scared him off. Otherwise, he would have reopened the case immediately. There was more in the envelope. Pages from Claire's personal journal. Notes she'd made about feeling sick after eating at her parents' house. Photographs she'd taken of medications in Victoria's bathroom. Pills Claire didn't recognize. And at the very bottom, a letter Claire had written but never sent, addressed to Nathan. My love, if you're reading this, something happened to me. I need you to know it wasn't an accident. My mother has been poisoning me. I know how it sounds, but I have proof. I've been documenting everything, running tests. The results are hidden with James. He'll make sure you get them. Please, if I die, make sure Lily is safe. Don't let my mother near her. Victoria isn't well. She can't let go. Can't let me be independent. She'd rather kill me than lose control. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I thought I could handle it alone. I was wrong. I love you. Protect our daughter. Nathan's vision blurred. He sat in the small bank room holding his dead wife's final words and understood exactly what his father had spent 15 years doing. Building a case that couldn't be ignored, couldn't be buried, couldn't be dismissed as the ravings of a desperate father. James Cross had collected irrefutable proof that Victoria Ashford murdered her own daughter to maintain control over her granddaughter. Nathan carefully repacked everything, signed the documents to close the safe deposit box, walked out of the bank carrying the envelope like it was made of glass. He got in his truck and sat for a long moment. Then he called Diana Wells. I have them, he said. Claire's medical records, official toxicology report showing lethal arsenic poisoning, notes from the doctor, Claire's own documentation, everything. Diana was quiet for 3 seconds. Then, Nathan, this is it. This is what we needed. Bring them to me immediately. Don't stop. Don't talk to anyone. Just drive straight here. I'm 8 hours away. Then start driving. I'll have the state attorney general's office on standby. With these records, we can move for an arrest warrant. Victoria Ashford will be charged with murder. Nathan started the engine, pulled onto the highway. His phone buzzed almost immediately, a text from an unknown number. I know what you found. It doesn't matter. Lily is mine. You will never see her again. If you don't stop, I will kill you like I killed Claire and Richard. No signature, but Nathan knew who sent it. Victoria. She was watching. Had been watching all along, probably had people in Riverside Falls reporting back to her. Maybe someone at the bank, maybe someone who'd seen Nathan come and go from the property. It didn't matter now. Nathan had what he needed, the truth his father had spent 15 years uncovering, the evidence that would bring Victoria down. He drove through the afternoon and into the evening, called Diana from the road with updates. She had everything ready. The Attorney General's office in Massachusetts had reviewed the preliminary information Diana sent. They were preparing arrest warrants. How long until they move? Nathan asked. 24 hours after I deliver the medical records. They need to verify authenticity, run their own analysis. But Nathan, this is happening. Victoria Ashford will be arrested for first-degree murder. What about Lily? Child Protective Services will take her into temporary custody during the investigation. I'm already filing emergency motions to establish your parental rights. Given the circumstances, fraud in the original custody case, I'm confident we can get Lily placed with you pending resolution. Nathan's hands tightened on the wheel. She doesn't know me. She's going to be terrified. I know, but she'll be safe. That's what matters. Nathan drove through the night, stopped once for coffee, kept going. The miles disappeared beneath his tires. He thought about Lily, about Claire, about his father spending years alone on that landlocked ship building a case he knew he'd never see finished. At 2 in the morning, Nathan's phone rang. Diana Wells. Her voice was tight. Nathan, we have a problem. What kind of problem? The police went to the Ashford residence in Boston to execute the arrest warrant and take Lily into protective custody. The house is empty. Neighbors said they saw Victoria and Lily leave yesterday afternoon with suitcases. No one knows where they went. Nathan's blood went cold. She ran. Yes, there's an Amber Alert issued. Every law enforcement agency in 3 states is looking for them. But Nathan, Victoria has resources. Money, connections, places to hide. This could take time. How much time? I don't know. Nathan pulled off the highway, parked on the shoulder. His mind raced. Victoria knew the arrest was coming. She'd taken Lily and disappeared. Where would she go? He thought about Grace's folder, the notes about the Ashford vacation house near Riverside Falls. But that was too obvious. Police would check there immediately. Then he remembered something else from Grace's notes. Victoria made regular trips to a small town in Pennsylvania. Smithfield, 3 or 4 times a year, always alone, always brief. Grace had noted it because it seemed odd. Victoria never mentioned business when she talked about those trips. Just said she was visiting a friend. A friend, someone Victoria trusted, someone who'd hide her. Nathan pulled out his phone, called Grace. It's Nathan. The notes you gave me mentioned Victoria visiting Smithfield, Pennsylvania. Did you ever find out why? Grace was quiet for a moment. No, I assumed it was personal. She'd go there for a day or two. Never talked about it. Do you know who she visited? No, but it was regular, same time every year, like clockwork. Nathan pulled up a map on his phone. Smithfield, Pennsylvania. Population just under 1,000. Rural, isolated, the kind of place where you could hide someone. That's where she is, Nathan said. I'm going there. Nathan, you should let the police handle this. The police are searching everywhere. They don't know about Smithfield. I do. This is my only advantage. He ended the call, typed the address into his GPS, 1,800 miles, 27 hours of driving. He could be there by tomorrow evening if he drove straight through. Nathan pulled back onto the highway, pointed the truck east, and drove into the darkness chasing the daughter he'd lost 10 years ago and the woman who'd taken her. Somewhere ahead, Victoria Ashford was running, but Nathan wasn't the broken man he'd been a decade ago. He had his father's evidence, Diana Wells building the legal case, and most importantly, he had purpose. A captain never abandons his ship. His father had taught him that at 6 years old. James had spent his final years proving it, standing at the helm, hands on the wheel, fighting a storm that lasted 15 years. Now it was Nathan's turn. Time to bring his daughter home. The Pennsylvania mountains rose dark against the pre-dawn sky. Nathan had driven through 2 nights and a day, stopping only for gas and coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. His eyes burned, his back ached, but the exhaustion didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the small town appearing now through the windshield as the sun broke over the eastern ridges. Smithfield, Pennsylvania. Population 973, according to the faded sign at the town limit. One main street, a handful of houses scattered among the hills. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone and strangers were noticed immediately. Grace sat in the passenger seat. She'd insisted on coming when Nathan called from the Ohio border. Said he needed someone watching his back. Said she owed him that much. They'd met at a truck stop outside Pittsburgh, and she'd transferred her bag to his truck without a word. The silence between them was heavy, but not hostile. Two people bound together by guilt and purpose. Nathan drove slowly through town. Everything was closed at this hour, not even a gas station open yet. But he was looking for something specific. Grace had described it from Victoria's rare comments over the years. A white house with a wraparound porch, set back from the road, trees on 3 sides. They found it at the southern edge of town. White paint peeling, porch sagging slightly. And parked behind the house, barely visible through a gap in the trees, was a black Mercedes S-Class with Massachusetts plates. Nathan pulled over 2 blocks away. Cut the engine, his heart hammered against his ribs. "That's her car," Grace said quietly. Nathan nodded, couldn't speak. After 10 years, after everything. Lily was inside that house, his daughter, 16 years old now, a stranger who carried his blood and his last name and memories of a father who'd vanished from her life. He reached under the seat, pulled out the gun he'd found in his father's toolbox back at the ship, a compact 9mm, old but well-maintained. Nathan had checked it yesterday. Loaded, safety on. He'd hoped not to need it. Grace saw the weapon. Her face went pale. "Nathan, I'm not going to use it, but Victoria's already killed 2 people that we know of. I'm not going in unarmed." "Then call the police. Let them handle this. The police will take hours to coordinate. Victoria will see them coming. She'll run again, or worse." Nathan tucked the gun into his waistband at the small of his back. Covered it with his jacket. "I'm just going to knock on the door. Talk to whoever answers. See if Lily's there. And if Victoria answers, then I'll deal with Victoria." Nathan got out of the truck. The morning air was cold and sharp. Mist hung in the hollows between the hills. He walked the 2 blocks slowly, rehearsing what he'd say, how he'd explain to his daughter that the grandmother she'd lived with for 10 years was a murderer, that the father she thought abandoned her had actually been fighting all along. The words felt impossible, but he kept walking. The house looked older up close. Paint not just peeling, but rotting in places. Porch boards soft with decay. But the Mercedes was new. Expensive. The contrast was jarring. Nathan climbed the porch steps. They creaked under his weight. He raised his hand to knock. The door opened before his knuckles touched wood. A woman stood there, mid-60s, gray hair pulled back, wearing a cardigan despite the chill. Her eyes went wide when she saw Nathan. "Who are you?" Her hand tightened on the doorframe. "My name is Nathan Cross. I'm looking for my daughter Lily. I believe she's here with Victoria Ashford." The woman's face went carefully blank. "I don't know what you're talking about. Please, I'm not here to cause trouble. I just need to see my daughter, to know she's safe." "I said I don't know anyone by that name. You need to leave." She started to close the door. Nathan put his hand against it, not pushing, just stopping it from closing. "Ma'am, there's an arrest warrant for Victoria Ashford. She's wanted for murder. My daughter is in danger. If you're hiding them, you're making yourself an accessory." The woman's resolve wavered, just slightly. "Murder. Victoria killed my wife. Poisoned her. Then she bribed witnesses and a judge to take our daughter. I have proof. Medical records, financial documents, testimony. The police are looking for them right now. An Amber Alert's been issued. If you know where they are, you need to tell me." From inside the house, a voice called out. Young, female. "Aunt Linda, who is it?" Nathan's world stopped. Lily's voice, he'd know it anywhere. 10 years older, but still hers. The woman Linda looked back over her shoulder, then at Nathan. "Wait here." She closed the door. Nathan stood on the porch, legs shaking. Lily was inside, right there, 20 feet away. After a decade of absence and loss and fighting, she was real and close and breathing the same air. The door opened again. This time Victoria Ashford stood there. She looked exactly as Nathan remembered. 64 years old but carrying it well. Expensive clothes, perfect posture, cold eyes that had never shown warmth even when she smiled. She studied Nathan like he was something mildly distasteful she'd found on her shoe. "Hello, Nathan. It's been a long time. Where's Lily?" "Safe upstairs, unaware of this dramatic scene you're creating." "Dramatic? There's a warrant for your arrest, for murder." Victoria's expression didn't change. "Yes," Linda mentioned. "How enterprising of you. You found your father's little treasure trove of lies and half-truths. Frank always was better at documentation than actual parenting." The words were designed to wound. Nathan didn't take the bait. "He was protecting me, protecting Lily, building a case against you." "A case?" Victoria smiled. It was worse than her usual coldness. "If you're expecting me to break down and confess, you'll be disappointed. I did what was necessary." Claire was weak, unstable, planning to take Lily away and raise her in poverty with a father who could barely support himself. "I prevented that." Nathan stared at her. "You're admitting it. You killed Claire." "I'm admitting I did what had to be done." Claire would have destroyed that child's future out of some misguided idea of independence. "I gave Lily everything she needed. Stability, education, opportunities, everything you couldn't provide. By murdering her mother. By removing an obstacle." Victoria's voice was utterly calm, clinical. "Now, unless you have police with you, which I notice you don't, I suggest you leave. Lily is happy. She's safe. She doesn't need a father who abandoned her 10 years ago, showing up to destroy her life with accusations and legal theatrics." "I didn't abandon her. You took her." "Semantics. The result is the same. She doesn't remember you. She doesn't want you. You're a stranger." "Then let her tell me that herself." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "No. Why, if you're so sure she doesn't want me, what are you afraid of?" "I'm not afraid of anything. I'm simply protecting Lily from unnecessary trauma." Nathan pulled out his phone. "Then I'm calling the police right now. They'll surround this house, arrest you, take Lily into protective custody. Is that what you want?" Victoria's composure cracked, just slightly. "Wait." Nathan paused, finger over the dial button. "Let's be rational about this," Victoria said. Her voice had shifted, calculating now instead of cold. "You want to see Lily. I want to protect her. Perhaps we can reach an arrangement." "What kind of arrangement?" "You leave. Go back to whatever life you've built in Oregon. I'll take Lily somewhere safe. Somewhere you and the police won't find us. In a few years, when she's an adult, she can decide for herself whether to contact you." "You're offering to let me give up my daughter in exchange for you not getting arrested." "I'm offering you a chance to avoid traumatizing Lily with the truth about what I did." "Do you really want her to know I killed her mother? That her grandmother is a murderer? That knowledge will destroy her. Ignorance will protect her." Nathan looked at this woman, this monster, who'd killed her own daughter and was now calmly discussing it like a business transaction, who'd spent 10 years lying to Lily about everything that mattered. "You don't get to make that choice," Nathan said. "The truth matters, even when it hurts." He pressed dial. The emergency dispatcher answered. 911, what's your emergency?" "I'm at 247 Maple Street in Smithfield, Pennsylvania. Victoria Ashford is here. There's an active arrest warrant for her. She's wanted for murder. I need police immediately." "Officers are on their way. Stay on the line." Victoria's face went white. "You fool, you're destroying everything." "No, you destroyed everything when you killed Claire." From the staircase behind Victoria, a voice. "Grandma, what's happening?" Lily appeared at the top of the stairs. Nathan's vision blurred. His daughter. Tall, dark hair like Claire's, blue eyes like his own. She wore jeans and an oversized sweater, looked tired and confused and heartbreakingly real. "Lily, go back to your room," Victoria said. But Lily was already coming down the stairs, looking at Nathan. "Who are you?" Nathan tried to speak, couldn't. His throat had closed. Victoria stepped between them. "No one important, just someone who's leaving." Lily pushed past her grandmother, stood in the doorway, staring at Nathan. You're the man from the picture, the one in my baby photos. I'm your father, Nathan managed. His voice broke on the last word. Lily's face went pale. That's not possible. Grandma said you died when I was little. Your grandmother lied. Nathan forced the words out. I'm alive. I've been looking for you for 10 years, every single day. That's enough, Victoria grabbed Lily's arm. Get back upstairs. Lily jerked away. Don't touch me. She looked at Nathan again. If you're really my father, why didn't you come before? Why now? Because I didn't know how to find you. Your grandmother made sure of that. But then my father died. He left me evidence, proof of what really happened. What really happened to what? Nathan looked at Victoria, then at Lily. This was the moment, the truth that would change everything. Your mother didn't die of natural causes. She was murdered, poisoned, and I can prove it. Lily's legs buckled. She grabbed the doorframe for support. What? It's not true, Victoria said quickly. He's lying. He's desperate, and he's lying to hurt me. I have medical records, Nathan said. Toxicology reports. Your mother had arsenic in her blood. Lethal amounts. Someone was poisoning her for weeks before she died. Who? Lily's voice was barely a whisper. Nathan met her eyes. Your grandmother. Lily turned to Victoria. Tell him he's lying. Victoria's mask finally shattered. Her face twisted into something ugly. Your mother was weak. She was going to take you away, raise you in poverty, destroy your future. I couldn't allow that. The words hung in the air. Lily's mouth opened, closed, opened again. You're admitting it. You killed my mother. I saved you from a life of struggle. Lily staggered backward, hit the wall. You killed her, and you lied to me. For 10 years you lied. Everything I did was for you. You're a monster. Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer, Victoria's head snapped toward the sound. For the first time, Nathan saw fear in her eyes. This isn't over, Victoria said. She turned and ran toward the back of the house. Nathan started after her, but Lily was between them, frozen against the wall. He stopped. Lily. She looked at him, tears streaming down her face. Is it true, all of it? Yes. And you're really my father. You've been alive this whole time. Yes, I never stopped loving you, never stopped trying to find a way back to you. The back door slammed. Victoria was running. Nathan heard car doors, an engine starting. He made a choice. Let Victoria go or stay with Lily. The answer was immediate. Obvious. He stayed. Police cars screamed into the driveway. Officers poured out, weapons drawn, shouting commands. Nathan raised his hands, stepped away from Lily. Let them see he wasn't a threat. One officer approached. Nathan Cross. Yes. We have the arrest warrant for Victoria Ashford. Where is she? She ran out the back, maybe 2 minutes ago. Officers sprinted around the house. Nathan heard more sirens, more vehicles. The small town street filled with flashing lights. A female officer approached Lily, spoke quietly to her, led her inside to sit down, away from the chaos. Nathan wanted to follow, to stay close to his daughter. But another officer was asking him questions, taking his statement. The dispatcher needed confirmation. Nathan answered mechanically. His eyes kept going to the doorway where Lily had disappeared. 20 minutes later, an officer emerged from the woods behind the house, escorting Victoria Ashford in handcuffs. She tried to run on foot, hadn't gotten far. They walked her past Nathan. Victoria's eyes locked on his. No fear now, just hatred, pure and cold. You've destroyed her, Victoria said. Lily will never forgive you for this. Maybe not, Nathan said, but at least she'll know the truth. They put Victoria in a police car, drove away. The sirens faded into the distance. Grace appeared from somewhere, put her hand on Nathan's shoulder. You did it. No, my father did it. I just finished what he started. A detective introduced himself, said they'd need Nathan and Lily to come to the station. Give full statements. Child Protective Services had been called. They'd need to make arrangements for Lily's care while the investigation proceeded. She can stay with me, Nathan said. The detective looked uncomfortable. Mr. Cross, I understand you're her biological father, but you haven't had custody in 10 years. We'll need to follow protocols. I have a lawyer, Diana Wells. She's been preparing emergency custody motions. You can contact her. Nathan rattled off Diana's number. The detective wrote it down, made a call, spoke quietly, finally nodded. Okay, your lawyer's coordinating with the court. Given the circumstances and the fraud in the original custody case, they're willing to place Lily with you temporarily. But you'll need to stay local. Daily check-ins. No leaving the state. I understand. They brought Lily out. She looked small, lost. A social worker walked beside her, speaking in low tones. When Lily saw Nathan, she stopped. Do I have to go with you? She asked. The question hurt more than Nathan expected. No. If you don't want to, they'll find somewhere else. A foster home or a group facility. But I'd like you to stay with me, if you're willing. Lily looked at the social worker, the police, Grace, finally back at Nathan. I don't know you. I know. Grandma said you didn't want me, that you moved away and started a new life. She lied. I wanted you every day, but they took you and I didn't know how to get you back. Not until my father gave me the tools. Your father, my grandfather. Yes, he died 2 weeks ago, but before he did, he spent 15 years collecting evidence, building a case, making sure that when the time came, I'd have everything I needed to bring you home. Lily's face crumpled. I never met him. I know, he wanted to, but Victoria wouldn't allow it. She controlled everything. Lily wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know what to believe anymore. Everything I thought was real is just lies. Not everything. Your mother loved you. That was real. I loved you. That's still real. And somewhere, somehow, your grandfather loved you enough to spend the last years of his life fighting for you, even though he knew he'd never meet you. Lily started crying. Not quiet tears, deep sobs that shook her whole body. The social worker moved to comfort her, but Lily waved her away, stood there in the middle of the street crying while police and neighbors and strangers watched. Nathan took a step forward, stopped, waited, let Lily decide. After a long moment, she closed the distance between them, fell against his chest. He wrapped his arms around her and held his daughter for the first time in 10 years. She was bigger than he remembered, taller, but she still fit against him the same way, like a piece that had been missing finally clicking back into place. I'm sorry, Nathan whispered. I'm so sorry for all of it. Lily didn't answer, just cried harder. And Nathan held her while the Pennsylvania sun climbed higher, and the police finished their work, and Grace stood quietly nearby, making sure no one interrupted them. When Lily finally pulled away, her eyes were red and swollen. If I come with you, what happens? We figure it out. Together, one day at a time. I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers. I don't even know what questions to ask, but I'm your father. And whatever comes next, we'll face it as a family. Lily studied his face, looking for something, truth maybe, or reassurance. Okay? Okay. I'll try, but I can't promise anything. I'm angry and confused, and I don't know how to process any of this. That's fair. The detective cleared his throat. We still need to go to the station. Get statements from both of you. The district attorney is going to want detailed testimony for the murder charges. They rode to the station in separate cars, Nathan with Grace, Lily with the social worker. The building was small, old brick. They were led to different interview rooms. Nathan spent 3 hours going through everything. The custody hearing, his father's investigation, the evidence he'd found, Claire's letters, the medical records, the photographs of Judge Barrett and Victoria together. The detective recorded it all, took notes, asked clarifying questions. Finally, he leaned back. Mr. Cross, this is one of the most comprehensive evidence collections I've seen in 20 years. Your father did remarkable work. He was a remarkable man. We'll need the original documents. Everything you found on the ship. My lawyer has copies. The originals are in a safe location. She'll coordinate with you. The detective nodded. The district attorney will review everything. But based on what you've told me and the medical records I've seen, I expect Victoria Ashford will be charged with first-degree murder. She'll also face charges for the custody fraud, bribery, conspiracy. She's looking at life in prison. Good. They let Nathan go. Grace was waiting in the lobby. Lily sat in a corner with the social worker. When she saw Nathan, she stood. "Can we leave?" she asked. "Yes, we'll need to find a place to stay. I'll call Diana. Make sure everything's arranged." They walked out into the afternoon light. Lily stopped on the sidewalk. "Where do you live when you're not here?" "Portland, Oregon. I have a small apartment. Nothing fancy. I work as a handyman." "What about school? I'm supposed to be in 11th grade." "We'll figure that out. Maybe you can transfer to a school in Portland. Or if you wanted to stay on the East Coast, we'll work something out." Lily looked overwhelmed. "This is all happening so fast." "I know, but we don't have to solve everything today. Let's just find a hotel, get some rest. Take it slow." They found a motel on the edge of town, 2 rooms side by side. Nathan paid for a week, gave Lily her key. She went into her room and closed the door without a word. Grace touched Nathan's arm. "Give her time. She's processing a lot." "I know, I just wish I could make it easier." "You can't. Some pain has to be felt before it can heal." That night, Nathan lay in the motel bed staring at the ceiling. He could hear movement from Lily's room through the thin walls. The television turning on and off. Water running. Footsteps. His phone rang. Diana Wells. "I heard from the Pennsylvania DA," she said. "They're charging Victoria with murder one. The medical evidence is ironclad. Your father's documentation sealed it. There's no way she walks away from this." "What about custody?" "The Massachusetts court has agreed to expedited hearings. Given the fraud in the original case and Victoria's arrest, they're prepared to restore your full parental rights. We just need to make it official." Nathan exhaled. "How long?" "2 weeks, maybe less." "But Nathan, even with legal custody, you're looking at a long road. Lily's been with Victoria for 10 years. The psychological impact of learning your guardian murdered your mother is enormous. She's going to need therapy, support, patience." "I know. Do you, because this isn't like getting a possession back. Lily's a person, a teenager with her own thoughts and feelings and trauma. She might not want to be your daughter anymore. You need to be prepared for that." "She's all I have left, Diana." "I understand. Just remember that healing takes time. Don't expect instant results." They ended the call. Nathan lay back down, tried to sleep, couldn't. Around midnight, he heard a knock on the connecting door between the rooms. He got up and opened it. Lily stood there in sweatpants and a t-shirt, eyes red from crying. "I can't sleep," she said. "Me neither. Can I ask you something?" "Anything. Do you have pictures of my mom, of me when I was little?" Nathan's throat tightened. "One, just one. I'll show you." He went to his bag, pulled out the photograph he'd carried for 10 years. Lily at 4 years old sitting on his shoulders at the park laughing. He handed it to her. She stared at it, touched the image gently. "I don't remember this." "Your mom took it. One of the last good days before everything fell apart." "Tell me about her. About my mom. Not what Grandma told me. The truth." Nathan gestured to the bed. They sat side by side. And for the next 2 hours, Nathan told Lily about Claire, how they met, how she laughed, how she sang off key, how she made pancakes every Sunday and always burned the first batch, how she'd cried with joy when Lily was born. Lily listened, asked questions, cried again, but quieter this time, processing instead of drowning. When Nathan finished, Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I don't remember you, I'm sorry. I know I should, but I don't. You were 6, it's okay. Grandma used to show me pictures sometimes. Said you were a bad person who hurt my mom. But in the pictures, you looked happy. I always wondered about that. We were happy for a while before your mom got sick, before Victoria started her campaign. Why did she do it? Why kill her own daughter?" Nathan had thought about this for weeks. Because Victoria needed control more than she needed love. Your mom was pulling away, trying to be independent, take you somewhere Victoria couldn't reach. That was unacceptable to her, so she eliminated the threat. "That's sick." "Yes." Lily stood. "I should go back to my room. Try to sleep." "Okay." At the door, she paused. "Can I ask one more thing?" "Of course. Did you really look for me for 10 years?" Nathan met her eyes. Every single day. You're my daughter. I never stopped loving you, even when I thought I'd never see you again. Lily nodded, didn't say anything. Went back to her room and closed the door. Nathan sat alone in the silence. It wasn't much. One conversation, a few hours of honesty, but it was a start, the first step on a very long road. His phone buzzed, a text from Grace. How is she processing? It's going to take time. You have time now, that's what matters. Nathan looked at the photograph Lily had handed back to him. 4-year-old Lily laughing on his shoulders. 10 years ago, a different life, a different world. But maybe with work and patience and grace, they could build something new from the ashes of what was lost. His father had spent 15 years building the foundation, collecting evidence piece by piece, fighting a silent war against an enemy who seemed untouchable. James Cross had died before seeing the victory, but he'd made the victory possible. Nathan picked up his phone, opened a new message, typed carefully. Thank you, Dad, for everything, for not giving up even when I did, for standing at the helm when the storm was worst. I understand now what you were teaching me. A captain never abandons his ship. You never abandoned me. I won't abandon Lily. I promise. He didn't send it. There was no one to send it to. But somehow it felt important to write the words, to acknowledge what his father had done. Nathan deleted the message, turned off the light, lay back down. Through the wall, he could hear Lily's television, some late-night talk show, the sound of normal life continuing. He closed his eyes and let the exhaustion finally pull him under. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, court hearings, therapy sessions, the slow work of rebuilding trust. But tonight, for the first time in 10 years, Nathan Cross fell asleep knowing his daughter was safe, knowing the truth was finally in the light, knowing that justice, though delayed, had arrived. Victoria Ashford would spend the rest of her life in prison. Judge Barrett would face his own charges. Grace Mitchell would testify and help undo the damage she'd been forced to create. And somewhere in Montana, a ship sat in the middle of a field, a monument to one man's stubborn refusal to give up, a testament to the power of patience and evidence in love that looked like silence but was actually the loudest kind of fighting. Captain James Cross had taken his last voyage, but the wake he left behind was strong enough to carry his son and granddaughter home. Nathan slept, and for the first time in a decade, he didn't dream of drowning. He dreamed of standing at a ship's wheel, hands steady, eyes on the horizon, the storm raging around him, but the course true and the destination clear. He dreamed of being a captain, like his father taught him, never abandoning ship, never surrendering to the waves. He dreamed of home.